Hey y'all, we're live now. It's gonna take a second for Noah to realize what's happening, but eventually he'll join the proper thing and we'll be able to hear him as well. Can't hear him at all yet. 1 second. There we go. Perfect. Okay, perfect. Hello everybody. Sorry, I tried tagging you, but it didn't
Are we
register for
live?
some reason. We're live now because, yeah. Anyway, so what's happening? Today is actually, you know what? Welcome to the Motion Design / Design Hotline. We've got tips and tricks. You've got questions to be answered. Join the Review Discord, link in the description, or if you're already in the Discord hearing us as well, we're having a good time today where you can all call into the show and chat with us. It'll be great.
That's right.
It's like
That's right.
real design radio show or
Do you
something
need your
like that.
design solutions? Because we have your design solutions.
If you are in the review stage, please feel free to raise your hand at any time, and if you've got questions for us, we'll chat about them. In the meantime, though, we'll give everybody a couple minutes to hop in here, get all settled and such. No, you're not gonna be able to see my screen share unless we do something, or it'll just have to be something that all of chat can see as well. We'll figure
That's the
that out.
strategy.
But it's okay because we're both in the stage. Oh, I need to post to Instagram. That's what I was doing. When I was trying to ping you to tell you that the stage was where the voice was now. So 1 second, and while I do that, what's going on in their life at the moment?
In either life at the moment, lots of boxes, honestly.
Are you boxing?
I'm packing up. Yeah, actually, I did find my boxing gloves yesterday in my closet. Debating on whether or not to bring them. I think I will. And just in case, you never know when you got a box.
Gonna happen.
I'm moving to the big fruit. It's what fruit?
Pear.
I want to say peach. I don't think that's right. It's an apple, I think.
Apricot?
Apricot? Sure.
Yeah.
It's the big
Wow.
apricot. And I'll be in Manhattan, living there, and I'm moving there this here upcoming weekend. So it's a lot of packing stuff in boxes.
Yeah.
And boxing stuff in paxes.
You know, I'm so glad you said something. Because it was just gonna be really awkward if you didn't.
Guys, these are the topics that you can ask us about, just to give some guidance. I mean, it's more like you can ask us about these. Please feel free to ask us our favorite fruit as well, because that's always a good question. You can ask us, this thing in Illustrator is really bugging out. What's up? You can ask us specifically about your concepting for a video. We can absolutely help you work through that and help you come up with more ideas and that kind of stuff. You can talk to us about client mishaps and crazies, and we can help you. We can help you communicate properly. We can be your little therapists.
Let us be your design business therapist.
Yeah.
We'll do that for you. And we'll give it away for free. It'd be great. Thanks for letting my body double hang out on the stream with you yesterday. That was very kind. Problem. I certainly appreciated it. But don't worry. Real me's here now in flesh and blood. I have somewhat moved into my new apartment. We're 85% of the way there. Not unpacked, but as far as stuff actually being there, we're 85% of the way there, I think. I've got a couple bookshelves left to move and two little cabinet things, and that's it, I think.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We be quick with it. Anyway, so who's going to be first to hop on the show? We've got Mahmoud with their hand raised. Let's bring him in. Oh, someone else raised their hand right afterwards. Mahmoud,
hi guys, how are you doing?
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the Design Hotline. How can we help you?
Okay, I actually wanted to know what is the implication of AI going to be on the design and motion design and animation as a whole?
Good question. It's a big one. It's a fat one. We've talked about this a little bit before. It's I think lowering the bar for who can create great content and raising the bar for how great that content can be. That's one of the most simplistic ways I can sum it up.
And ways that I think that can affect the actual business of what we're doing is if the bar is being raised, people could be expected to create higher quality work than what they're making now, but not necessarily like it might end up being the same amount of actual effort that needs to be put in, but the actual output will be higher for the same price. Or because more people will be getting into it and being able to create things easily, prices may lower a bit because of that, especially if you're at some of these really, really high-end studios, I would think. But that's my guess.
All right. Thank you so much.
Of course.
No problem. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. All right. On to our next question from somebody in the chat. I don't know what the name is. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Daily Motion Show.
Yeah, hello, Astenus, and hello, Noah, guy.
What's up? How you doing?
Yeah, my name is Hemalata, and I'm an artist. Yeah,
Cheers to it. Nice to meet you.
and my question, I was introduced to this channel by my friend. Actually, he was introduced. I don't know much about motion graphics, but I have met a lot of people who is working in my field, which was frame by frame animation in this Riot community. I was so happy for that. So my question is how to approach bigger clients. Is there any way? I know a lot of freelance platform doing that, but there is a lot of way. I know some ways, but can you name the ways to speak with bigger clients? Can you say how to approach bigger clients? Because you are the guys who is in the top of the game, right? So you know a lot of way. If I get any idea from your answer, I can implement that. Yeah, that's my question.
Okay.
Okay. How to
We're
talk to
on
large
it.
clients.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
You want to take this one?
yeah.
Oh boy. Boy, do I.
I know you're excited.
All right.
Yeah.
So a lot of what you're going to need to do is honestly just make the type of work that you want to make. It's you get to higher budgets when you become known for doing a certain thing. I'm not necessarily saying to niche down, like think about like, okay, I want to make a lot of money making like explainer videos, so I should just only make explainer videos and that's it. It's more of a just sort of relying on your passion to figure out. I mean, take the loops, for example. I like making quick, snappy, fast motion. And I didn't think that I was doing that with a lot of the client work that we had at the time. And so I started making the loops just because I wanted to, and that was fun for me. But that meant that we started to become known for just snappy, fast motion that people wanted to have us make. And so when you're starting to just enjoy the creative process and putting out the work that you like making most, you'll get people that start coming to you just for your style and your guidance. That's how you get the money, because somebody just going and paying you just to animate something that they already had the idea for is inherently going to be a lower value than if you're able to give them the idea instead. It's that creative direction that you can bring and that you're allowed to bring once people sort of see your work for the type of thing that they can actually tell you have passion for, if that makes sense.
Right.
Okay, I understood that. Thanks for the answer.
Of course.
Yes.
And furthermore, I would just go ahead and to add that confidence is key when talking to larger clients. They want to feel like you know what you're doing and you're there for them. Like you are helping them. You're making their life easier, and like you got it. And that's even easier when they come to you for something that you already love doing and that you're already pretty proficient at.
Right.
Like Austin was saying.
Yes,
So you're like, yeah,
right.
I absolutely got you. Like, let's make this fantastic and just be very like understanding and willing to work without crossing any of the boundaries. Just very, it's that confidence. It's nice.
Yes. Sometimes I want to share one things with you and other guys who is listening to my voice. sometimes the clients won't words, clients' ideas maybe won't work. And sometimes they wanted to do something they have an idea in their mind, but if you put together as a video, it won't work.
Hmm.
Sometimes we have to say to them like it won't work. We have to go with this idea. We have to, you don't need a guy to who you don't have to work with a person who is doing whatever you say. You have to fight against you. You have to say this is the right thing, and you have to do it. If you do this in this way, you can get more clients, more views, more professional video. So I think I want to share it.
I think that's good advice.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Bring the next guy in.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, thank you.
All
I think
right.
educating clients is just like a big part of it.
Well,
Sometimes,
and
I mean, it can be. If they don't see you as the expert, that can just be like tough overall. But sometimes you have to add a little bit of education on top, and sometimes the best way to get them there, I think, is through asking questions, like really explore with them that idea that you know is not really going to be the best idea, and ask them maybe a little bit of leading questions, ask them about more how they perceive it, and then see if you can get them to kind of end up at your conclusion. That could be a way to kind of get them there, because maybe they haven't thought about it in a certain way, and if you ask the questions that get them to think about it in the way that you're kind of seeing it, then you don't have to have that battle of like, well, you're wrong and I know better,
Yeah.
because nobody wants to have that conversation.
and that will never work because we've struggled with that a lot in terms of trying to figure out, well, why won't clients just let us be doing X, Y, and Z part of the process or something like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, we would not be able to come in with the level of creative direction that we want, or be able to write the scripts necessarily, or do those sorts of pre-production things that we were seeing lots of other studios do. And we knew that the work was suffering because of that, because there was that disjointed, like, well, they just want this and they're kind of giving it to us and we just got to animate whatever they say.
Right.
But also, you got to realize, like, that sort of thing just comes over time. Like, a lot of people that just see your animation somewhere or something and like that aren't necessarily going to know if you did all of those other things for that project. And even if they do, they might not necessarily trust you for that sort of thing. A lot of businesses, especially if you're going direct to brand, are probably going to think that they're going to be able to write the script better because they know their business better than you would know their business off the bat. And those sorts of things. But that's why it's important to prompt, even if you're starting on a project where you're just animating and maybe you want to do more, you can still do that and at least like grow some trust in that relationship that you can do that well. And then, they'll be a little bit more open to letting you do other parts of the process and taking that off of their plate in the future. If like during an initial call, you're saying, oh, well, we also, we're pretty like birth to death on projects, and we'll be able to, we often script write on projects, and we'll also, we can handle voiceover and all sorts of different things like that. Like just sort of keying in small little things, not saying like you have to let me do this or like I'm going to do this for you, and really like planting your flag on that sort of thing. Just letting them know that it's something that you do so they can be on the lookout for that. Or at the very least, an easy way, especially with script writing to get in, is if they have a script written for you already, but you mention that you also like script writing, they might just send it over for your feedback, They might invite you into that process a bit more.
You could be like, hey, I have an outside perspective. Can I give some comments on the script? I think might make it work better with the video. And here's one more little piece of advice. If you make sure that they think that you have, if they know that you have their best interest in mind, as well as potentially like a defined goal of like, hey, we want this video to be really great. You take the ego out of it, you know what I mean? It's not you versus me. It's like us together trying to make this as best as we can. And sometimes I'll disagree with certain things you say because I think that it'll make the video better. Like we're all, going towards the same goal. And if you set that kind of goal there and you're moving towards it together, then it's a lot less tension when you're like, actually, I think we should do this. And they're like, oh, I know that you have my best interest in mind. I know that we're working towards the same goal. Therefore, I can actually like take my ego out of it and look at your perspective here.
Like we can all just
very helpful.
relax and
And
chill.
it looks like we got another
out.
caller on the line.
Another caller on the line, you say?
And then we'll do Nick M, and then we'll Mohammed.
Cool. Sounds good. Take him in.
So, welcome.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hello.
I'm doing pretty good. I'm in
What?
the UK, so it's 2 p.m. for me. What time is it for you guys?
Ooh,
It is 9:24 a.m.
we just getting
Oh.
started.
That's getting started. What can we do for you?
Okay, I think I've got a question that links fairly well to the client thing.
Cool.
How significant do you think online retention is for an individual freelancer versus a group like you guys?
Online retention. You mean like views and
Like
that kind of
presence?
stuff? Presence?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a great question.
I think it's
Um,
more important for individuals than
I think so too.
than for
yeah.
studios, because if purely
Yeah.
if you just look at numbers, you're like, we're one studio of maybe a couple hundred or something, but I mean, freelancers, you're one of thousands and thousands of people. You
Yeah, it's
gotta-
like a whole ocean.
Yeah, exactly. So I think in that sense, it absolutely makes sense to have presence be pretty top of mind.
It's so important, man. And like, we are a bit of a unique group where we put more of a focus on social media. But if we were like
Yeah.
a regular agency, then like it's not quite as important
Mhm.
for a lot of them. Especially once you get like retainers and lots of client relationships, and find your clients in other ways. But our whole jam is social media, so for us, it's extremely important.
It's also just because we like it.
Yeah, it's heck of fun. But
So-
yeah.
What advice would you have for like any individual freelancers in the audience who would want to generate more of a larger following online? Just general advice.
So much general advice.
Come at it from a
But-
place of passion. That's
Yep.
number one.
Like the stuff you really want to make.
Number two, I know we're all introverts, but you kind of got to let it go and just be willing to have people perceive you however they're going to perceive you.
'Cause you don't know how much fun it is to start actually talking to people in the industry if you haven't done it already. Oh
Mhm.
my goodness.
Yeah, it's
It's
scary, but
crazy.
it's a worthy push.
Everyone is so nice. You can reach out to like anyone. It's so lovely.
And the way I try and look at it is, I am an introvert. I'm very heavily introverted. And to me, social media is kind of a saving grace in that regard, because if you gave me just a general group of people, I might have some similarities with some people in that group, but I'm never usually the type of person to just like go to a party and want to hang out with just like a big mix of people, However, what social media has allowed me to do is very clearly like call out, these are the things I like. And then anybody else who also likes those things can just go and take that step to like engage with what I'm doing. Like, I'm not really having to worry about rejection or any of those sorts of things that I might be worried about in social scenarios, because it's just a completely open door and like you can see it for exactly what it is. I'm not like trying to put anything out there that I'm not actually interested in or doing, And I think that can be a place of comfort for a lot of introverted people in that respect.
For sure.
Absolutely. It's also so optional. Like you don't have to engage with DMs or comments or any of
Yeah.
that stuff. It's just, it's very, you get to decide exactly how you want to engage.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, talk to people in the industry. It's a good time.
Fair enough. That's all I really wanted to ask. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having on. Glad we could be of assistance.
Have a good rest of your morning.
Wonderful.
We'll have a good rest of your evening. I guess.
All right. We'll see ya.
See ya.
I almost invited myself to speak accidentally.
Oh my god, would you like to speak, Austin?
Yeah, I'd like to speak about this thing Nick M is asking us to look through. A little scary to me. We've probably, a lot of us have seen that Illumina piece from Buck, but I'll just go ahead and play it anyway. Hold on, let me pull it up on the stream as well. There we go. Okay. Most of us have probably seen this thing already. I realize audio is probably
Dreams.
not coming through on Discord, so
They take us places we've never been. show us things we've never seen.
I got it.
Dreams let us reimagine the world we live in. There's a power inside us that can make dreams come
It's
true.
just
The power
some of the
of
smoothest
Gene.
match cuts you'll ever see. Just gradients,
We
just
found a way to
morphing
unlock
into
that
each other.
power. So you can answer life's biggest questions. Can you find a cure for every kind of cancer? Can disease stop being an inheritance? How can everyone live not just longer, but healthier? These answers are written just 4 letters. We live in a time that is brighter than ever before. And this is just the beginning. Introducing the NovaSeq X series. Our most innovative sequencer is here. This is the Genome Era.
This is the Genome Era.
Real pretty. And what Nick is asking about is these shots where you're getting just these gradients that just like push up against each other and then just merge and form, and how we might think about approaching that.
I mean, if you could break it down into like just colorful shapes, and then effects that blur based on a map, or just blur together and then animate those shapes together, like the shapes push up against each other and then maybe they're at a blending mode or something, or they just push into each other, and then you change the color of the shapes at the same time, or like push a gradient through them if you want. And then just add like a bunch of blurs and that kind of stuff on top. You could do it like that, I suppose.
That makes sense.
What do you think, Austin?
I mean, I'm trying to delve into my what could be the jankest way to do this and still have it work sort of thing. And I don't know. Some of these, it's would be easier if it was actually just these sort of waves going into each other, but when it really looks like this defined solid shape that then turns into it, I think it's really just about getting the right time for a match cut, honestly. There's probably just a lot more little just like switching over of layers than we think. So maybe you get like this more solid shape, then you start blurring it a bit more until it becomes a little less defined on the edges, and then you cut to just this actual layer that is more of just like a turbulent displacer for a color gradient or whatever it is. Probably actually just a bunch of shapes together that are blurred or something on a layer. But that's what I would think, is there's a lot of just like, we've got this one layer that's pretty well defined, and then you start blurring it until you get to this other, like until it's close enough to this other layer that you've already got a bunch of more blurred shapes and stuff in to be able to get this more like soft, flowy texture going on. But to be honest, I don't know really. What you said is much more eloquent than that, I think, and it would take a bunch of R&D to get to an actual like rig that I think would work to be able to make a video of that length for that many different scenes. That's true. We can.
Someone reach out. Someone figure this out.
We'll report back. We'll report back.
I would also suggest looking at Carl Johan Hasselroth. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. He's got lots of beautiful gradients within shapes that you're like, how are those moving like that? And it just works really well. But he has little breakdowns on a lot of them. I'll put his stuff in the Discord chat. Check him out. That might be a helpful resource for this sort of thing.
Agreed. But otherwise, I'll just hit Jordan up and ask and see how they might have done some of that stuff, because I don't think they have any of the breakdowns on here.
No, I don't think they have a lot of process.
Mm-mm.
I'm sure it'd be a lot harder for Buck to put together a process because there's so many people involved all the time.
Yeah, it'd be a mess. Oh, well, that shot didn't exist. That's fun.
You got some old versions of shots.
That's kind of fun. I kind of like this one more because I think the ones they
I
went
do
with,
too.
the one they went with looks too much like the Chex Mix breadsticks.
I love how wavy it gets. That's so much fun.
I know. Looking
That's
at this shot though, it does feel like, especially when that moment you can like tell that side gets pushed in, like it really just looks like there's some sort of like mesh warp or displacement map or something that just is like applied at that moment, or a wave warp
Yeah.
or something that's going on. Actually, I think it is just a wave warp because it seems to apply to everything all at the same time.
It does.
And it's just kind
But
of
it,
like,
it also
but
like
it's like
goes.
kind of corner pinned. I feel like if you pre-comped it with the wave warp on it and then corner pinned that to the edges, so where you could see that like perspective going off into the distance, I think that would still work pretty well.
It looks like the wave warp gets smaller as it goes to the left. So I wonder maybe if it's like a repeating pre-comp and the wave warp
Oh, it
changes
could
as
be.
it goes through, or like there's some way to kind of map how much warpiness is happening depending on what part of the screen you're at. I do wonder.
Oh. I could have sworn that.
Turbulent displaces grain. That would be really interesting.
Oh, Justin Walsh. That's funny.
Huh.
Anyway, hope that was somewhat helpful, Nick. I'll go ahead and ask around and see if we can get more insight on that, though.
Yeah. It's really
Because
freaking cool.
I don't know.
Well, we have some time for some more callers.
We do.
Mohammed is asking a question once more. Hop in here. Bring, hello.
Bring, 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 bring.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Okay, so you guys were talking about gradients. I had a question in mind.
Mhm.
Can you please tell us? But like I have a hard time understanding ACEs and how like these affect the motion design.
A hard time
This is
Sorry, can you repeat that? A hard time understanding what?
The ACEs workflow.
This is workflow.
Aces.
I'll write it. Yeah, ACE.
I don't. Oh, the ACES work. Actually don't think I've heard of that. Have you heard of the
Oh, so-
ACES workflow?
No.
So basically,
Aces
when
workflow.
when you are combining 3D with 2D, and while rendering, you can either choose ICOC profiles, you can render in ACES. Like I guess it is in terms of After Effects, it is the bit depth of it. Either the project is 32-bit, 16-bit. Like what are the limitations? How do you guys export it? Like what is the technical norm when it comes to motion design?
Okay.
Oh, it's color
Sure.
spacing and stuff.
Funny enough, you know,
Interesting.
I feel like we get the question about export settings and that sort of stuff often. I don't know about you. I really don't do anything special with my exports. I am almost always just doing the default media encoder H.264. Or if we're doing ProRes, I'm just doing Apple 444 and not changing anything else.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it just comes down to how we make the gradients and things that we use at this point. I mean, can you think of a project that we've even done recently, not necessarily that we have to call out or anything, that we actually use like big swaths of gradients anymore, where it's like one color and then black or something? Because I feel like that's where you get the most banding and those sorts of things, is when it's
Yeah,
just
I
like
mean-
one big gradient that goes across something, and it gets kind of like, I don't know how to describe it better other than like mushy. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of contrast, but a lot of our gradients like are just super high contrast. I mean, we've got like very clearly defined edges on some things, and we've got like rim lighting and other things on it, you know?
Interesting. I've never even heard of aces. Yeah, I think because of how contrasty a lot of our stuff is, we don't need to worry about that as much. Because that is like one of the biggest reasons why we would want to go up in bits of color or into another
Mhm.
color spaces, because of banding and stuff. Because in motion design, I guess there's less of a need for it to be, extremely color accurate or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think sRGB just kind of like works well enough for us, and until the industry standard or just what's easy kind of changes up a little bit, we haven't really given a whole bunch of thought to this.
Yeah, or until there's
Honestly.
like a more noticeable difference. I find
Yeah.
myself mostly using 16-bit, but I don't really think there's even that much of a difference compared to the exports where I was doing 8.
Mhm.
It's also, we do a slight grain pass over everything. Just
Yeah,
like
grain
all the
helps
time.
a lot
It
with that kinda
doesn't
stuff
matter
anyway.
what it is, and it's not even super noticeable. And it makes it feel a little bit more stylized than if you've just got like some
Smooths out a
banding or
little bit.
something. You know, ironically, since it's actually just adding sharp little bits in it, but somehow it just makes it work.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
I'll watch some of these videos. This seems really interesting. I do love like the technical side of color space and that kind of stuff. But as far as like actual projects and stuff go, unless the client's like requesting certain things, um, we don't really have a whole bunch of stock in whether or not to go with like ASUS, Adobe RGB, or sRGB. So we just kind of do what's easy for everyone.
I will note though that we don't do a whole lot of 3D either, so maybe that's
True.
why. But
Yeah.
So how like the when it comes to the color spacing, um, I understand that there is no hidden recipe to it, but how do you guys choose the color palette when making your stuff?
Yell at Noah until he gives you one.
that's one
Usually.
way. Otherwise, we've made so many projects at this point that each person on the team, well, especially me and Noah, have our own library of color palettes that we've used before. So it can be kind of easy for me to be like, oh, well, I haven't used that one in a really long time. Or like maybe I want to take like 2 colors from this palette and mix it with this other one or something. But I'm not really having to do a whole lot of color research for that reason. It's really just like I've already got a bank
kinda-
of like 25 or something, you know?
Yeah, I kind of just go into like little phases of different kind of color palettes I like, and uh, matching those with different kind of styles I like. And I've been really into like pinks and greens recently. I think those go into color palettes really well. And then of course like the yellow, red, purple / blue one is just so much fun. So I don't know. It's just, looking at other color, and that's mostly for personal projects. A lot of the client projects kind of have predetermined color palettes via their brand guidelines, but when they don't, we're allowed to kind of go a little buck wild, given that we like create a base that feels relevant to their brand, which means like, kind of taking their brand colors and maybe keeping one the same and like altering the others to make it fit better in a more interesting way that fits the video more. But some clients let you do that, some clients don't.
Mhm.
It's really just, working with colors and seeing colors all the time and trying to make them fit together in more interesting and fun ways.
And otherwise, if we really just need to find a new color palette or something, we just go on, or at least I know I just go on Behance until I find a project that I like the colors, and then I'm like, yep, those sounds good.
Yeah.
And alter them a little
I'll
bit for the
often
project.
just be like, I really like this. I mean, it can be any kind of work too. It could even be like a photograph. I'm like, I really like how these colors are playing together, and I'll take them and then I'll like alter them to fit the needs a little bit better, but maintaining like the kind of color harmonies and being cognizant of like how they're actually talking to each other. Maybe make some gradients out of them and like kind of get into the weeds with the colors and be like, all right, like how are these colors actually relating to each other? Rather than just being like, I like that color palette, although I do that sometimes too. So, yeah, there you go.
All right. Okay. I guess there is no other question here, so I will ask another question if I may.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, as far as I understand, my basic understanding when it comes to the motion design, that is, it is a marketing tool. Like um, it helps promote the brand or the story of the brand. Whoever our client is, it helps tell their story in an engaging way. Now, when it comes to the video marketing, there are 3 basic steps in that funnel: awareness, consideration, conversion. Like first you entertain the audience, then you educate the audience, and then you compel the audience. Now, for which, like, I do understand the basics of it, that all of these 3, they like different sort of mediums fit those a bit differently, but which is the one that motion design serves the best?
Which one? The educate, compel, inform? Sorry, what
Entertain,
was it?
educate, and compel. Like awareness,
Entertain,
consideration, and conversion.
educate, and compel.
I'd
That's a
say,
good question. I think it's very contextual, I guess.
yeah, I think it really depends on what type of client you have. For that, to me, what Ravi suits best for is more so just like it's an emotional response. I guess that might fit more with compel. It's not necessarily that it's happy all the time or like a I want to buy this sort of mood. But what I think that we do well is not like, here is the product, here are its features and some type on the screen, and here's a render moving around or a screen recording or something. Like where we excel is in, and where I think a lot of motion design does, is in brand films. When you get to spend time more abstractly exploring what a brand means, and not just from like a PR, like, our brand is a different technology solutions company that does blah, 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 and, you know, like has all this corporate speak or whatever in it. But really getting to a place where it's honestly just making a video that somebody will remember. Because at the end of the day, like, a lot of companies will still ask for ROI. And I mean, you can get KPIs from things like views and that sort of thing, and that's fine. But a lot of studios that will try and claim like what sort of actual return sales wise that a company can get from a motion design video that they make or something, it's all so like muddied and murky on how to actually attribute those sales to those videos. It's at the end of the day, what we do as marketers is just give people the opportunity to like have more familiarity with that brand in the event that maybe they want to buy something in the future. I feel like very, very few videos will actually evoke a response of like, I need to buy that thing right now. And that's just not the case for most people unless you're already looking for something similar to what that company is offering, or you're like already interested in that area or something like that. But a lot of motion design stuff is just B2B. So it's just like making sure that it's something that another business owner can remember about this service that might make them want to use it or something like that.
I think that motion design, especially like 2D motion design, like it can do all three very well. It depends on both the context and how it's being done. Like if you're trying to educate someone on how an object works in the internals, you're going to be better off using like 3D to just actually show it one to one.
Right.
Rather than using 2D animation to do anything really. But you know, it's just very contextual. And I think you can do all three better. I much prefer using it to entertain and compel than to inform. But that's me.
I also think
I hope that answers your question.
That inform element is what we see a lot of beginners in the industry do. When you're seeing videos where people are very clearly trying to emulate real life and make full scenes where it's like, that is a person and that is a house and that's a microscope, and it's very like this is a very popular thing in like early 2010s motion design. That's what cameras are for, in my mind. If you're doing something that could just be better done by just going and filming that thing and it would have the same response, don't spend all that time animating that thing. That makes no sense. It should be something that is able to like to feel like magic and wow people, because it's not something they could just see with their eyes out in the world, you know? That's where it fits for me, which is why I think I had mostly leaned towards entertain, because and compel, because I feel like that's what both of those do in that space.
All right. Thank you so much, guys.
Of course.
I'll raise my hand again if I have another question.
Cool. Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right.
Good response, Austin. I love it.
Thank you. That one.
Welcome, ever moment.
Struck me.
Come ask us a little question.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you doing?
We're doing good. How can we help you?
How can we help you?
Okay, so my question is not really a design question, but remember back in like September, October, Austin announced that you'll be hiring soon, like in May, April. So I was thinking, like, I was curious, are you still considering that, or like? So yeah, it's about hiring.
Okay.
To Reviti.
Good question. Well, what I will say is I wish that we were / could. However, it was just, as some of y'all might know, it was just me and Noah for quite a while running Revi, and we only started bringing people onto the team last year. I probably like 11 months ago or something. We brought on our first intern, and then very quickly that became like, okay, now we've got like Noah and Austin plus 2 interns, and then later in that year it's like Noah and Austin plus 2 interns plus 2 motion designers, and you know, it just kind of snowballed, and like now we have our team of 8 where we've got 2 video editors, We've got, and that's Jackson and Danny. We've got Mseti, Sam, Will, and Barbara are all motion designers, and then there's me and Noah, who are doing both. And that's a lot to have to keep up with, especially with the state of the industry right now. Like, lots of studios are just having a hard time getting leads this year, and we're not immune to that. And so while we would like to be hiring, it's just not the right strategic move right now. So don't know when that will happen. No, and I don't really have like a super strong forecast for this sort of stuff, but I would assume that if we hire, we might bring like 1, maybe 2 roles on like this year entirely. I don't really see it being much more than that. We're also not even just from like a financial standpoint. We really like the vibe of the team right now. Like, we have struck a really solid mix of like, we're all friends, and we're able to be that way because of the size of the team. It gets a little harder to like really be engaged with everybody when you get a team that's like 15 plus people, you know, because then by that point you got to separate out into different departments and other stuff like that. And we're trying to avoid that for as long as possible. So just what that means is right now we are just like very, very protective of this core group that we've already got. And so at the point where we do hire, it really is like, we said it last time when we were too, but more than the work, more often it's just going to be like a personality thing, and like, do they fit well with the team and those sorts of things. It's like almost all soft skills compared to the actual like skill set of the person technically. But
yeah, I see the soonest hire probably being another editor.
Yeah, or something like that. Because as far as motion goes, we've got like 6 of us now, you know? Pretty good sized team so far. But you never know.
Yeah, I got you. Thank you guys for answering. Have fun.
Of course.
Of course.
See you.
See ya. Well explained. All right. Well, we got about 9 minutes left. Do you want to do
We'll take
a rec?
I don't have any pulled up. Do you have one pulled up?
I have one pulled up if you want to.
Okay, sure. Why not? And then otherwise we will take one other question. One single other question. So if you've got it,
Just send it to you.
get your hand raised. I saw Olgierd's pop up first, so we'll look at this rec and then we'll bring him on.
All good. Really think about your question. Really think hard about
Really
it.
think about it, you know? All right, here we go. Let me get screen shares going for everybody now.
Screen sharing
Everybody
all
now.
around.
I have a feeling I'm going to enjoy this. All right, here we go. Oh, and it loops.
And it looped.
How pleasant, dude.
Is that
That's
not just
great.
so lovely?
That's a great
I
rec.
love that they made the filament into like this string.
It starts to
it's
look
so
like
good.
noodles for a second. We're just eating
Yeah.
some ramen noodles or something.
And that cut between here and the is so smooth.
It's
oh my
really
god.
nice.
Like,
I love
frame
that.
perfect. That's incredible.
Well done.
The sound
Linus.
design as well really helps it. I love it.
This is great.
Fun little fella for you.
I love that they even added these markings on it. Like, they didn't have to do that, but it
Which
just
markings?
it just makes it all the more real.
Oh,
you
yeah,
get these on like all
those.
sorts of different products. and
Yeah. Those things. Yeah.
stuff.
I
Cool.
love that little thing.
Wonderful. Well,
From the Soundry did the music to it. I love
let's
it.
get our
Good stuff.
final cue in, and then we gotta hop to a call after that.
That's right. What is up? How you doing?
Hello, guys.
What's going
I'm doing
on?
fine, thanks. So I think I thought about my question very hard,
Okay,
and my question is, how would you get over the fear of like doing an actual like professional work? Because like doing stuff for myself or for like challenges or competitions, it's fine because like if I don't manage to finish it or it's not like to a certain standard, nothing really happens. But when you do like a professional work, there's like, you know, money on the table and the client, and you don't want to disappoint them, and yeah, what to do with that fear that you can't do work to a certain standard.
That's a very good question. I love that question.
That's a good
The
question.
thinking,
Thank you.
I see the thinking in that question.
I do as well. I think we can come at it from a couple different places. One thing that I was drawn to as you were explaining that was just being worried about a certain set of expectations. And the nice thing is that in this industry, we have the power in setting those more often than not in the form of creating a contract or statement of work for a client or something. You can very clearly outline what you're going to be doing and set those restrictions and what that budget means. But not only that, because that's kind of like down the line, especially if the work you're getting is word of mouth, and whether it's like you putting up stuff that you've made for the challenges or for yourself or whatever, you're showing quality there, right? I mean, like, people will know what they can expect from you from those sorts of things. And I guess if it's like, I guess that kind of raises the question of like, okay, what if you're afraid of like making something of that quality for a client? Then I understand that. But I don't know. I've kind of talked myself into a hole here. Noah, do you get where I'm going with this?
I kind of do. Like that's the expectations here, and there's no like fear of going outside of it. You know what I mean? Like if they know what they're getting and you've communicated what they're getting,
Yeah.
then like, you know, you have very clear boundaries, and there's no reason to worry about like them being disappointed because you've already let them know exactly what they're getting.
Yeah. And I mean,
So that's one way to kind of ease that fear. In my opinion, like that's kind of just something that comes with like most risks in life, and I think it's a really it's an exciting part of it. Like I think if you can kind of shift it to embrace that and be like, now there's stakes, which means that this is going to help me grow, and like it feels a little bit more important in some ways, and treat it a bit like a game, because honestly, if you can also rationalize it that like at the end of the day, these expectations are here now, and you might disappoint someone, and that would be so sucky. But like, I guarantee in a year, most of everyone's gonna forget. Like it's not gonna matter. So, you know, enjoy it and like see what you can get out of it, as opposed to coming at it from like a kind of place of fear, because it's just unnecessary.
And take some comfort in knowing that, I mean, agencies and other industry people will have their own expectations of quality, and it's kind of a different thing. But more often than not, in my experience, working with clients direct to brand or something like that, the perceived difference in quality that to you might feel like you've only done like 50% of your best effort or your best project compared to that being like 100%, a client direct to brand might see as like closer to 5% difference. Like it will be pretty negligible in some respects, like depending on how much that person is like in motion, you know? If it's an agency or somebody that's doing this stuff all the time, like sure, there might be some little nitpicky things or something, but more often than not, I have found that it is often a much smaller difference than you would think it is, because you're spending more time actually looking at the work and like diving into the weeds of it, of whatever project you're working on, than anybody else will be. You know, like by the time you've watched back something that you've animated and like that you've seen hundreds of times, of course it's going to feel different, you know, but when somebody watches it on the first pass, they might think that like it's I've had plenty of times where I'm like, oh, okay, I've got this like 10-second thing, I'm going to fit like 12 scenes in there, and I see it and I'm like, oh, this scene feels too slow, whatever. And it's really like each of those is like half a second long or something. But then a client watches it for the first time and it all just goes by so fast, you know, because they're taking in all this new information for the first time.
Yeah.
They haven't seen it before. And that first watch, I think, is something that's super important to like just hone your, like just ground yourself in, so that you're not so worried about like, what are they going to think if they've seen it 55 times like me? Because in all likelihood, they won't, you know? That gives me some comfort.
If I were to, yeah, I love that. That's a great response, Austin. And if I were to just summarize my quick advice here, I would say right now you're kind of in a that would be like a mental of like, oh, I'm worried about their expectations. That's kind of a mental of like running. Like I don't want to. It's coming from like a negative outlook. Does that make sense? It's running from the idea that you'll mess up or fuck it up in some way, and you know, you're running away from like the darkness as opposed to like chasing what you actually want. And so I would say, look at how you can shift that mindset from like, instead of focusing on the negative, focus on the positive. Like instead of being like, I don't want to upset this person, switch that to like, I really want to make this person really happy and impressed with what I'm able to do. You know, shift it to a more like optimistic and excited outlook, because that is going to then reflect in your work and it's going to make it better, and everything's just going to be easier in your life if you're able to switch that focus to, instead of running, chasing.
Yep.
That'd be my advice. And with that,
Hopefully that
we're
helps.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really turned into some therapy session. Yeah, but
Hey,
thank you so
that's what
much.
we're here for. Of course.
absolutely
Yeah, and I'm very glad.
Wonderful.
All right.
beautiful.
See ya, guys.
All right.
See
We'll
ya.
see ya. And on that note, that's the show. Thanks for hanging, everybody. If you want to submit your work for critique, link down in the description to do that. Link to the Discord is there as well. But also, if you're already in the Discord, you're in the right place. So congrats. And use hashtag DailyMotionShow when you post on socials, and we just might wreck it.